across the glutes, okay, from a seated position, this is what happens. Things go to sleep. They get short, they get sleepy, everything tightens up. Okay. But we can change that balance in the joint very, very quickly within 10 seconds on the table with real strong movements. Okay, so it's kind of understanding flexibility just is multifaceted. So things that can affect it is posture, repetitive strain. So if we are repeating the same faulty movements, or again sitting down being a faulty movement, we're repeating that over and over and over again, the body gets used to it. It adapts. It's very clever because this is what I do for 8 hours a day, so this is where I should be. But we have to change that. Fatigue. Who's seen a person tear their hamstring in the 80th minute of a rugby match, or put their back out on the last scrum of the game? Fatigue. Yeah. Thank you, Lewis. The big thing on optimal performance is fatigue, okay? And that's why I have a job. Essentially, in a field sport, in an open sport, we minimise fatigue, but we maximise output at the same time. So this is a really interesting one, bony architecture. So you're seeing a lot of it in the hip. You have, anyone heard of a hip impingement? Yeah? So it's basically when the joint architecture doesn't fit. We're not all made equal, and it doesn't all move the same. Sometimes you get what's called a block, where you would have a little bit of extra bone, either on the capsule, on the outer of the capsule, or on the thigh bone, and it just doesn't allow that movement. So this is a really important point, that should you stretch into that block, because all you're going to do is cause problems. Over the years, everyone has stretched to get loose. You've got to be able to hold a static stretch for X amount of time, when actually they miss the bigger picture of joint centration. So, moving on. Joint centration, gone wrong. Okay? Flat feet. Real simple, it's a big problem. And what you can see is happening, is as that foot arch collapses, the position of our shin bone changes. Okay? So where we're always looking for optimal alignment, optimal centration, the position of our foot changes, and it changes that centration. So what you have, everyone will be able to see this, so what you have through here, instead of a nice stable arch, you have a faulty arch. Okay? Push it into that fault, you can automatically see that this angle comes straight through. It changes the mechanics of our feet. What do you think it's going to do up the chain? I think it's going to optimize or hinder centration. It's going to hinder it massively. It's going to cause us problems. It's going to tear calves. It's going to provide shin splints. Anyone had shin splints? It takes a long time to get rid of. It's going to cause ACL deficiency. There's something called knee valgus, which is an awful setup which you see all the time. Knee valgus is the key thing that goes wrong when an ACL is blown. And it could start at the foot. It could be nothing to do with the knee. Okay? So this is why I need to take a much bigger picture at the fundamentals of flexibility and mobility. And that's why it's there at the base of the pyramid. Okay? For those, I'm sure everyone's aware that a pyramid can only be as tall as its base. Okay? So that's why we put stuff like this at the bottom of the base. It is the foundation of movement. It is the foundation of performance. Okay? You ignore this, you run big risks for injury. Okay? So, how do we change it? We provide massage, we change joint position, and we move. A very, very easy process. We've got these foam rollers up here, some bands that we've chucked around. Some of the guys have brought them up. We've got a break coming up in a bit, and I want everyone just to jump on if they've never foam rolled before. I'm going to tell you how to do it, why to do it, and they're going to follow this little So, foam rolling. For what everyone says and how they sell them, they do not change your muscle length. They don't. In order to change muscle length, you have to put more muscle fibers in the shape. Okay? Essentially, to maintain performance. If you're just trying to create longer muscles with the same amount of call it productive tissue in it, you're not going to be able to produce the same amount of force. Okay? The best people to look at for this are gymnasts. Some of the things that they can perform are absolutely fantastic. They have great range of motion, great movement, great stability throughout everything, and yet they can hurtle through the air, perform multiple back somersaults. They've got this concept nailed. Unfortunately, they start a little bit too early, and they all retire before they take. So, what we do is we manipulate something called fascia, which is basically clean film over the muscle. It's the easiest way to explain it. And what that does is helps facilitate movement. Imagine if we didn't have fascia, we would all walk like the Tin Man, basically, because everything would work on fixed planes. And very simple, if my hip flexor wants to lift this up, it's fine, but I can't rotate with that. Okay, this has to facilitate all of our multi-planar movements, such as our rugby pass, when we're trying to counteract sprinting, stuff like that. So this is a real important thing. It's really strong. I read this article that it takes 4,700 psi to break an ACL. Right? Tensile length. So that's strong. That's really strong. And we just need to use it to help us. Okay? But what happens, very much like the best one is seen a glue gun. You lay the glue out and then you can tack it around. You can split it. Okay, that's what can happen with fascia. It can disperse and become very matted and very tough and horrible. And that's what you feel if anyone's got a massage and it feels like their skin wants to move their whole shoulder or their whole neck just wants to move. That's because the fascia has locked down, connected that skin to the muscle, and it just doesn't move. Okay? There's a lot of fluid dynamics and hydraulics that go with this, but essentially we've got to manipulate the fascia, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's a little bit better than my glue gun explanation, but that's kind of what it's made up of, and that's everything. That's all of it. So, how do we roll? We roll slow to disrupt fascial excitation caused by stress. Stress causes thickening to protect us. So, what you'll find if someone's going to work on you, you'll have, like, again, a really matted piece, okay, and it hurts. And they wouldn't even be pressing too hard. And they feel it, and it goes to work on you, and it just hurts. It's grindy, sometimes you feel like you've got sandpaper under your skin. That's fascia. Okay? And the reason why fascia can tighten up and cause this protective mechanism is due to joint centration. It goes right back to the beginning. There's a weakness somewhere, there's an associated tension somewhere where we don't have homeostasis. Okay? It can also be, again, fatigue. So the muscle fatigues, fascia tightens over the muscle to protect us. We've got a breakaway try, we've got nothing in the muscle, fascia can't hold on for that long, bang, there goes your hamstring. Okay, so again, it's all the layers underneath reinforcing that base of the pyramid. So, what we're going to do, when we have a break, if anyone wants to come up and have a go, I'm going to show you, we're going to go after the quad and the IT band, they're the two that cause the most issues. So we're going to look at and find the best way to do it. Okay? Anyone ever made bread? You need the bread out. Very simple. Really slow. So, mobilising our joints. So, we've got a faulty joint mechanics, that centration's off. Okay, the best one is the hip. The hip's the tightest joint we've got in the body. It's a locked down ball and socket, holds a lot of pressure. And it can just get disrupted. And in here, in this socket, this is not a hip joint socket, by the way. This is just a good diagram to show. We need fluid in order to aid the mobilization and the movement. That's why people say you should drink lots of water. You should. Over 70% of the body is made from water. So a 95 kilo person should be at least getting 5 litres through water, herbal teas, fruit and vegetables. Okay? Not 6 coffees. And in order to articulate well, it needs the lubrication. And what can happen is when that centration comes off, you saw at the beginning, that balance, you've got like an abrupt edge where it just won't move. So what we do, and Dan, you're a physiotherapist, aren't you? They distract joints. Okay, they're called tractions, gliding, and all they do is they help restore fluid balance within the joint to help the movement. So again, they're not really changing anything. They're just undoing the faults. Really easy way to do it on yourself. Again, in the break, anyone who's got tight hips, I can show you how to do this. We've got more than enough bands who can do it in pairs. And it's a really easy self-help tool. If you found it difficult in the overhead squat, spend 2 minutes on that each side, and you'll glide down very, very easily. So, how do we use this? What process do we go through? Test, move, retest. Test your position. Felt a bit sore here, a bit sore here. Go after it. You can do it very manually with the foam rollers, with the distraction work. You retest and see. It's not change, you repeat. You repeat and you repeat. There's a great person who I've managed to meet. His name's Kelly Starrett. This is one to write down. And he's got a book called Becoming a Supple Leopard. Very, very easy, digestible read based on all these. I bought both books. They're on my shelf. I use them every day. I don't think there's a day since I started. I don't think there's a day that's gone by that I haven't used something that he's taught. So, good process. Balance and stability. Cirque du Soleil. These guys are incredible. The stuff that they can do. I tried to find a video of most jack dudes to use as well. It keeps it around the net. Even if they are wearing time. It sells the argument for itself, how important balance and stability is. It's called a hamstring in here. Yeah, didn't it? I'd like to say throughout this, stop me if you want to ask a question. Just shout to me. You can discuss whatever you want to discuss.
Is it truffles that are blocking the camera?
Oh, does it? Truffles.
At least someone's watching online.
You can say speak up as well.
Oh, can you not hear me? Notice that. So again, this really sells the argument. Balance and stability.